Right now, at this very moment, something extraordinary is happening. You might not see it yet, you might not feel it yet, but the universe has already begun to align the pieces of your next breakthrough. 24 hours ago, you were a different person. 24 hours from now, you will be shocked at what has changed in your life. I want you to imagine for a moment that you received a phone call from the divine itself. Picture this: your phone rings, you answer, and on the other end, a voice filled with infinite wisdom and love says, "Congratulations!" The next 24 hours will shock you. What would go through your mind? What would you feel in that moment? Excitement, fear, disbelief. Today I am that phone call. Today I am here to deliver a message that has been whispered through the ages, carved into the hearts of every master, every sage, every person who has ever achieved the impossible. The message is simple, yet profound. Your transformation has already begun. You see, most people live their lives waiting for permission. They wait for the right moment, the right opportunity, the right circumstances. They wait for someone to give them the green light, to tell them they're ready, to assure them that success is guaranteed. But what if I told you that the permission you've been waiting for was granted to you the moment you took your first breath? What if the divine has been saying, yes, to you your entire life, and you've been too distracted by the noise of doubt to hear it? There's an ancient story from the monasteries of Shaolin that speaks to this truth. A young monk approached his master, frustrated and impatient. "Master," he said, "I have been practicing for years, yet I feel no closer to enlightenment. When will I achieve what I seek?" The master smiled and pointed to a bamboo grove outside the window. "Do you see that bamboo?" he asked. The young monk nodded. "It grows underground for 7 years, building its root system, invisible to the world. Then, in just 6 weeks, it shoots up 90 feet into the sky. Tell me, did it grow 90 feet in 6 weeks? Or did it grow 90 feet in 7 years and 6 weeks? This is your moment. This is your bamboo moment. For years, perhaps decades, you have been growing underground. Every struggle, every setback, every moment of doubt has been building your root system. Every book you've read, every skill you've developed, every relationship you've built, every prayer you've whispered in the darkness, all of it has been preparing you for what's coming in the next 24 hours. But here's what most people don't understand about transformation, and it doesn't happen to you. It happens through you. The universe doesn't change your circumstances and then hope you rise to meet them. No, the universe changes you first from the inside out, and then your external world reshapes itself to match your internal transformation. Right now, as I speak these words, something is shifting within you. Your cells are responding to a frequency that they haven't felt in years, maybe ever. Your DNA is remembering its original blueprint, the one that was designed for greatness, for purpose, for impact, the part of you that has been dormant, the part that has been waiting patiently for this moment is beginning to stir. I want to share with you the story of Sarah, a woman I met 3 years ago who was convinced her life was over. She was 57 years old, recently divorced, facing bankruptcy, and had just been diagnosed with a chronic illness. She came to one of my seminars not because she believed anything would change, but because her daughter had bought her a ticket and she didn't want to disappoint her one last time. Sarah sat in the back row, arms crossed, skeptical of everything. But something happened during that seminar. For the first time in years, she heard the voice of possibility whispering in her heart. 24 hours after that seminar, she received a phone call from a publisher who had somehow gotten hold of the poetry she used to write in college, poetry she thought no one would ever want to read. They wanted to publish her work. But that wasn't the shock. The shock was what happened inside Sarah when she got that call. For the first time in decades, she remembered who she really was. Not the divorced woman, not the sick woman, not the broke woman, but the creative force of nature who had been sleeping under layers of other people's expectations and her own limiting beliefs. Today, Sarah is a best-selling author. Her health has dramatically improved, and she's financially free. But if you ask her what changed her life, she won't tell you about the phone call from the publisher. She'll tell you about the moment she decided to listen to the voice inside her that had been trying to get her attention her entire life. That voice is speaking to you right now. It's the same voice that has been guiding every master throughout history. It's the voice that told Moses to part the Red Sea, that inspired Joan of Arc to lead an army, that whispered to Einstein the secrets of the universe. It's the voice that said to Buddha under the Bodhi tree, "This is your moment," and to Jesus in the garden, "Your purpose is greater than your fear." This voice doesn't discriminate. It doesn't care about your past, your mistakes, your current circumstances, or your limitations. This voice only cares about one thing: your willingness to say yes to what wants to emerge through you. But here's where most people get stuck. They hear the voice, they feel the call, but then their mind jumps in with all the reasons why it's impossible. I'm too old, it says. I don't have the resources. I don't have the education. People will judge me. What if I fail? What if I'm not good enough? Let me share with you one of the most profound teachings from the Zen tradition. The mind is an excellent servant, but a terrible master. Your mind's job is to keep you safe, not to keep you growing. Your mind is designed to predict danger based on past experiences, which means it will always try to talk you out of doing anything you've never done before. But transformation requires you to do what you've never done before. Transformation requires you to become who you've never been before. And that terrifies the mind. So how do you move beyond the mind's resistance? How do you access the courage to step into your next level? The answer lies in understanding a fundamental truth about the nature of reality itself. Everything in this universe is energy in motion. Your thoughts are energy. Your emotions are energy. Your dreams are energy. Your fears are energy. And energy cannot be created or destroyed. It can only be transformed from one state to another. This means that the energy of your limitations can be transformed into the energy of your breakthroughs. The energy of your fear can be transformed into the energy of your courage. The energy of your doubt can be transformed into the energy of your faith. But transformation requires a catalyst. And that catalyst is choice. Not just any choice, but the choice to align yourself with the highest possibility available to you in each moment. Right now, you have a choice. You can choose to continue living the story you've been telling yourself about what's possible for your life, or you can choose to step into a new story, a story where miracles are not only possible, but inevitable. Let me tell you about James, a man who made that choice at the age of 45. James had been working the same job for 23 years, coming home every night feeling dead inside, wondering if this was all there was to life. His marriage was struggling, his health was declining, and he felt like he was sleepwalking through his days. One morning, James woke up and something was different. He couldn't explain what it was, but he felt like he was seeing his life for the first time. That afternoon, he walked into his boss's office and quit his job. His wife thought he had lost his mind. His friends said he was having a midlife crisis. But James knew something they didn't. He knew that the voice inside him had finally gotten loud enough to drown out all the other voices. Within 24 hours of quitting his job, James received 3 phone calls. One from a former colleague who wanted to start a business together. One from his estranged brother who wanted to reconcile. And one from a doctor's office telling him that his latest test results showed a complete reversal of his pre-diabetic condition. But again, these external changes weren't the real transformation. The real transformation was that James had remembered how to trust the voice of his own soul. He had remembered that he was not a victim of his circumstances, but a creator of his reality. This is what I mean when I say the next 24 hours will shock you. It's not that external miracles will necessarily fall from the sky, although they might. It's that you will remember who you really are. You will remember that you are not separate from the creative force of the universe, but an expression of it. The ancient mystics understood this. They knew that what we call God is not some distant deity sitting on a throne in the clouds, but the very essence of life itself, expressing through each of us in unique and miraculous ways. When Jesus said, "The kingdom of heaven is within you," he wasn't speaking metaphorically. He was revealing the most practical truth. In the universe, everything you need to transform your life already exists within you. But accessing this inner kingdom requires you to quiet the noise of the external world and tune into the frequency of your own divine nature. This is what meditation is really about. This is what prayer is really about. This is what every spiritual practice throughout history has been pointing toward, the recognition that you are not a human being having a spiritual experience, but a spiritual being having a human experience. And as a spiritual being, you have access to resources that your human mind cannot even comprehend. You have access to infinite intelligence, unlimited creativity, boundless love, and unwavering strength. These are not things you need to earn or achieve. They are things you need to remember and activate. How do you activate them? Through the power of aligned action. Not action driven by fear, desperation, or the need to prove yourself, but action that flows from your deepest knowing about who you are and why you're here. Every master throughout history has understood this principle. They didn't wait until they felt ready. They didn't wait until the path was clear. They didn't wait until they had all the answers. They took aligned action while they were still afraid, while they still had doubts, while the way forward was still mysterious. Muhammad Ali didn't wait until he was certain he could beat Sonny Liston before he declared himself the greatest. He declared himself the greatest first, and then became it. Oprah Winfrey didn't wait until she felt worthy of having her own television show. She acted as if she was worthy, and the universe responded by making it so. This is the secret that changed my own life. I wasn't born with some special gift or advantage. I grew up in poverty, faced ridicule and rejection, struggled with addiction and depression. But at some point, I made a decision that would change everything. I decided to stop waiting for permission from the outside world and start giving myself permission to be who I was called to be. The moment I made that decision, everything began to shift. Opportunities that had been invisible suddenly became obvious. People who could help me appeared out of nowhere. Resources I needed showed up exactly when I needed them. It was as if the entire universe had been waiting for me to say yes to myself. But here's the most important thing I want you to understand: this wasn't magic. This was law. This was the natural consequence of aligning my inner state with my highest possibility. When you change the way you see yourself, the way you see yourself changes everything you see. Science is beginning to understand what the mystics have always known. Quantum physics tells us that the observer affects the observed. The very act of observing something changes it. This means that the way you observe your life literally changes your life. If you observe your life as a series of random events happening to you, that's the reality you'll experience. If you observe your life as a carefully orchestrated journey designed to help you grow and evolve, that's the reality you'll experience. If you observe your life as a divine conspiracy working on your behalf, that's the reality you'll experience. The next 24 hours will shock you because you're going to start observing your life from a completely different perspective. You're going to start seeing evidence of magic where you used to see only mundane circumstances. You're going to start recognizing synchronicities where you used to see only coincidences. You're going to start feeling the presence of divine support where you used to feel only alone and abandoned. But this shift in perception requires you to do something that might feel uncomfortable At first, you have to be willing to let go of your old identity. You have to be willing to release the story you've been telling about who you are and what's possible for your life. This is perhaps the most challenging part of transformation. We become so attached to our identities, even when they're limiting us, because they give us a sense of safety and predictability. I'm not the kind of person who becomes a prison we build around ourselves. But what if you're not the kind of person you think you are? What if everything you believe about yourself is just a story you learned from other people who didn't know your true potential? What if the voice that's been telling you you're not good enough, not smart enough, not worthy enough, is not even your own voice? The truth is that voice belongs to every person who ever doubted you, every teacher who underestimated you, every parent who projected their own limitations onto you, every society that tried to put you in a box. But that voice is not the voice of truth. That voice is not the voice of your soul. Your soul's voice sounds different. Your soul's voice says, you are here for a reason. You have gifts that the world needs. You have a unique contribution to make. You are loved beyond measure. You are supported in ways you cannot see. You are capable of miraculous things. Listen carefully to your inner dialogue over the next 24 hours. Notice when the voice of limitation tries to speak, and gently redirect your attention to the voice of possibility. This is not about positive thinking or denial. This is about learning to distinguish between the voice of fear and the voice of love, between the voice of conditioning and the voice of truth. There's a beautiful practice from the Sufi tradition that can help you with this. It's called the practice of muraqaba, which means to watch over or to guard. The idea is to guard your thoughts the way you would guard a precious treasure. Every time a thought enters your mind, you ask yourself, is this thought aligned with my highest good? Does this thought serve my growth and evolution? Does this thought bring me closer to who I'm called to become? If the answer is yes, you welcome the thought and allow it to guide your actions. If the answer is no, you thank the thought for trying to protect you, but you choose not to give it your energy. You replace it with a thought that is aligned with your highest possibility. This is not always easy, especially in the beginning. Your mind has been conditioned to default to worry, doubt, and limitation. But like any muscle, the more you exercise your ability to choose your thoughts, the stronger it becomes. I want to share with you a story that illustrates the power of this practice. There was a man named Victor who survived the Nazi concentration camps, one of the darkest periods in human history. In the camps, Victor discovered something that would change not only his life, but the lives of millions of people who would later read his words. He discovered that between stimulus and response, there is a space, and in that space lies our power to choose our response, and in our response lies our growth and our freedom. No matter how dire his circumstances, no matter how much his captors tried to break his spirit, Victor realized that they could not take away his freedom to choose his attitude toward what was happening to him. This discovery not only helped him survive the camps, but led him to develop an entirely new school of psychology based on the idea that our primary motivation in life is not pleasure or power, but meaning. He realized that if you can find meaning in any situation, no matter how painful, you can not only survive it, but use it as a catalyst for growth. You may not be facing the extreme circumstances that Victor faced, but the same principle applies to your life. Between the circumstances of your life and your response to those circumstances, there is a space. And in that space lies your power to transform any situation into a stepping stone toward your highest destiny. Over the next 24 hours, I want you to pay attention to that space. When something happens that would normally trigger a reaction of fear, anger, or despair, pause. Take a breath. Ask yourself, how can I use this situation to become who I'm called to become? What is this experience trying to teach me? How can I respond in a way that moves me closer to my highest possibility? This is what it means to live as a conscious creator rather than an unconscious reactor. This is what it means to partner with the universe in the creation of your reality. This is what it means to remember that you are not a victim of your circumstances, but a student of life, constantly learning and growing and evolving. But transformation is not just an individual journey. It's also about recognizing your connection to the larger tapestry of life. Every person you meet, every situation you encounter, every challenge you face is part of a grand design that is far more intricate and beautiful than your human mind can comprehend. The mystics call this Indra's net, an infinite web of interconnection where each point of light reflects all the other points of light. When you transform, you don't just change your own life, you change the entire network. Your healing becomes healing for the world. Your awakening becomes awakening for humanity. Your love becomes love for all of creation. This is why your transformation matters so much. This is why the voice within you has been calling you forward with such persistence. It's not just about your personal happiness or success, although those things are important. It's about your role in the larger evolution of consciousness that is happening on this planet. We are living in unprecedented times. Never before in human history have so many people been awakening to their true nature simultaneously. Never before have we had access to so much wisdom from so many traditions. Never before have we been so connected, so able to support each other's growth and transformation. You are part of a generation that is being called to heal not just your own wounds, but the wounds of your ancestors and the wounds of the earth itself. You are part of a generation that is being called to model a new way of being human, a way that is based on love rather than fear, connection rather than separation, service rather than selfishness. This is a profound responsibility, but it's also a tremendous privilege. You get to be alive during one of the most transformative periods in human history. You get to participate in the birth of a new consciousness, a new way of relating to yourself, to each other, and to the planet. But this transformation won't happen automatically. It requires conscious participation. It requires you to do your part, to heal your own wounds, to follow your own calling, to become the fullest expression of who you're capable of being. And it starts with the choice you make right now. The choice to believe that your life matters. The choice to trust that you have something unique and valuable to contribute. The choice to step into your power and stop playing small. I know this choice can feel overwhelming. I know it can bring up fear, doubt, and resistance. But I also know something else. You wouldn't be here listening to these words if you weren't ready. The fact that your soul has guided you to this moment, to this message, is proof that your time has come. The universe doesn't waste anything. Every experience you've had, every skill you've developed, every relationship you've built, every challenge you've overcome, all of it has been preparing you for what wants to emerge through you now. Think about the caterpillar in its cocoon. For days, it experiences nothing but darkness and dissolution. If it could think like a human, it would probably be terrified. It would probably think it was dying. But what's really happening is the most beautiful transformation in nature. The caterpillar is not dying, it's being reborn as something far more magnificent than it ever imagined possible. You are in your cocoon right now. The old version of yourself is dissolving to make way for something far more beautiful and powerful. The darkness you've been experiencing is not punishment, it's preparation. The challenges you've been facing are not evidence that you're on the wrong path. They're evidence that you're being forged into something stronger. Over the next 24 hours, you're going to start feeling the first stirrings of your wings. You're going to start sensing the vastness of the sky that awaits you. You're going to start remembering that you were born to soar, not crawl. But just like the butterfly, you're going to have to trust the process. You're going to have to be patient with the timing. You're going to have faith that everything is unfolding exactly as it should, even when you can't see the bigger picture. This is where surrender becomes your greatest strength. Not the surrender of giving up, but the surrender of letting go. Letting go of the need to control every detail. Letting go of the need to know exactly how everything is going to work out. Letting go of the need to have all the answers before you take the next step. True surrender is saying to the universe, I trust you. I trust that you have my highest good in mind. I trust that you are guiding me towards something more beautiful than I can currently imagine. I trust that if I do my part, if I listen to the voice within me and take aligned action, you will do yours. This doesn't mean becoming passive or giving up your personal responsibility. It means becoming an active participant in the divine dance of creation. It means saying yes to the opportunities that align with your soul's calling, even when your mind doesn't understand why. It means taking bold action when you feel the inner prompting, even when you don't have a guarantee of the outcome. Let me share with you the story of Maria, a woman who understood this principle deeply. Maria had been working as an accountant for 15 years, but every night she would go home and paint. She had boxes full of paintings that she was too afraid to show anyone. She kept telling herself she would display her work someday, when she felt more confident, when she had more pieces, when she was ready. One day, Maria's mother became seriously ill. As she sat by her mother's bedside, her mother grabbed her hand and said, Mija, don't make the same mistake I did. Don't wait for tomorrow to live your dreams. Tomorrow is not promised to any of us. That conversation changed everything for Maria. The next day, she took a week off work and entered 3 of her paintings in a local art show. She had no expectations, no grand plans. She just knew she had to take action while she still could. What happened next shocked everyone, including Maria herself. All 3 of her paintings sold on the first day of the show. By the end of the week, she had received commissions for 12 more pieces. Within 6 months, she was making more money from her art than she ever had from accounting. But the real miracle wasn't the money or the success. The real miracle was that Maria had finally stepped into alignment with her true self. She had stopped hiding her gifts and started sharing them with the world. And when you stop hiding your gifts, the world responds with opportunities you never could have imagined. This is what's going to happen for you over the next 24 hours. You're going to stop hiding. You're going to stop playing small. You're going to stop waiting for permission and start giving yourself permission to be who you really are. And when you do that, everything changes. Your energy changes. Your vibration changes. Your presence changes. People start responding to you differently. Opportunities start showing up. Resources start appearing. Doors start opening that you didn't even know existed. But this process requires you to be willing to be vulnerable. It requires you to be willing to be seen, really seen, perhaps for the first time in your life. And vulnerability can be terrifying because it means you can no longer hide behind your masks, your defenses, your excuses. Yet vulnerability is also your greatest strength. It's where your power lives. It's where your authenticity lives. It's where your ability to connect with others and make a real difference in the world lives. When you're willing to be vulnerable, you're saying to the universe, I'm ready to show up fully. I'm ready to let my light shine. I'm ready to trust that who I am is enough, exactly as I am right now. And that's when the magic happens. That's when you discover that you've been carrying around the answer to every prayer you've ever prayed. That's when you realize that everything you've been searching for outside yourself has been waiting patiently inside you all along. So the ancient Sanskrit greeting, Namaste, captures this truth beautifully. It means the divine in me recognizes and honors the divine in you. But before you can recognize the divine in others, you must first recognize the divine in yourself. You must first acknowledge that you are not a flawed human being trying to become spiritual, but a perfect spiritual being having a temporary human experience. This recognition changes everything. It changes the way you walk through the world. It changes the way you speak to yourself and others. It changes the way you make decisions. It changes the way you handle challenges. It changes the way you love and allow yourself to be loved. Over the next 24 hours, I want you to practice seeing yourself through the eyes of the divine. Look in the mirror and instead of cataloging your flaws, acknowledge the miracle of your existence. Think about your past mistakes with compassion rather than judgment. Consider your current challenges as opportunities for growth rather than evidence of failure. This is not about creating a false sense of self or inflating your ego. This is about seeing yourself clearly for the first time. This is about recognizing that you are a unique expression of the creative force of the universe. And as such, you have value that cannot be diminished by any external circumstance. When you truly understand your divine nature, you stop looking to others for validation. You stop trying to prove your worth. You stop apologizing for taking up space. You stop dimming your light so others don't feel uncomfortable. You start living from the inside out rather than from the outside in. And that's when you become magnetic. That's when you start attracting people, situations, and opportunities that are aligned with who you really are. That's when you stop pushing against the current of life and start flowing with it. There's an ancient Taoist teaching that illustrates this principle beautifully. It speaks of water, which is soft and yielding, yet can carve through the hardest stone. Water doesn't fight against obstacles. It flows around them or through them or over them. And in doing so, it accomplishes what the hardest, most rigid materials cannot. This is the secret of effortless achievement. When you stop fighting against life and start flowing with it, when you stop trying to force outcomes and start trusting the process, when you stop pushing upstream and start moving with the current, you discover that the universe has been trying to support you all along. But flowing with life doesn't mean being passive or accepting mediocrity. It means being so aligned with your highest purpose that every action you take is supported by the full force of creation. It means being so connected to your inner guidance that you always know the next right step to take. This is what it means to live in divine timing. Divine timing doesn't mean that everything happens when you want it to happen. It means that everything happens when you're ready for it to happen, when you can receive it fully and use it wisely. Sometimes divine timing means waiting. Sometimes it means acting immediately. Sometimes it means saying yes. Sometimes it means saying no. The key is learning to distinguish between the voice of divine timing and the voice of fear, between divine guidance and ego manipulation. Divine guidance always feels expansive, even when it's asking you to do something that scares you. It feels like truth, even when it challenges your current beliefs. It feels like love, even when it requires difficult choices. Divine guidance always moves you toward greater aliveness, greater authenticity, greater service. Fear, on the other hand, always contracts. It always makes you smaller, more defensive, more isolated. Fear always focuses on what might go wrong rather than what might go right. Fear always whispers, "You're not ready, you're not worthy, you're not safe." Over the next 24 hours, pay attention to these two voices. Notice which one you've been listening to and following. Notice which one has been making your decisions for you. Notice which one has been shaping your life, and then make a different choice. Choose to listen to the voice of divine guidance. Choose to trust the voice that sees your potential rather than your limitations. Choose to follow the voice that leads you toward your highest destiny rather than your smallest fears. This choice will require courage. It will require faith. It will require you to act even when you don't have all the information, even when you can't see the whole staircase, even when others don't understand or support your decision. But here's what I know about courage. It's not the absence of fear. It's the recognition that something is more important than your fear. When you connect with your deepest why, when you remember what you're really here to do, when you feel the pull of your soul's calling, fear becomes irrelevant. Martin Luther King Jr. didn't march on Washington because he wasn't afraid. He marched because his vision of equality was more important than his fear. Gandhi didn't challenge the British Empire because he felt safe. He acted because his commitment to justice was stronger than his concern for his personal safety. You have something inside you that is more important than your fear. You have a vision, a dream, a calling that wants to express itself through you. You have gifts that the world needs, wisdom that others are waiting to hear, love that others are desperate to receive. The question is, are you going to let fear keep you from sharing these gifts? Are you going to let doubt prevent you from fulfilling your purpose? Are you going to let the opinions of others stop you from becoming who you're meant to be? Or are you going to choose courage? Are you going to choose faith? Are you going to choose to trust that you are here for a reason and that everything you need to fulfill that reason will be provided? I believe you're going to choose courage. I believe you're going to choose faith. I believe you're going to choose to step into the fullness of who you are, regardless of what anyone else thinks or says. And when you make that choice, when you really make it with your whole heart and soul, that's when the miracles begin. That's when doors start opening that you didn't even knock on. That's when people start showing up who can help you in ways you never imagined. That's when resources start flowing toward you from unexpected sources. This is not wishful thinking. This is not new age fantasy. This is the natural law of the universe. When you align yourself with your highest purpose, when you commit to being of service, when you choose love over fear, you tap into a power source that is unlimited. Einstein called the field. Quantum physicists call it the zero-point field. Mystics call it the divine matrix. Religious traditions call it God. The name doesn't matter. What matters is that this field exists and you have access to it every moment of every day. You access this field through your consciousness. You access it through your intentions. You access it through your actions. You access it through your willingness to be an instrument of love and service in the world. And when you access this field, when you plug into this infinite source of creative power, you become a conduit for miracles. Not just miracles for yourself, but miracles for everyone whose life you touch. This is your invitation. This is your calling. This is why you're here at this moment in history. You are being invited to remember who you really are and to step into the fullness of your power. You are being called to be a force for positive change in the world. You are being asked to be part of the solution to humanity's greatest challenges. But it all starts with you. It starts with your willingness to heal your own wounds, to follow your own dreams, to trust your own guidance, to love yourself unconditionally. It starts with your decision to stop waiting for someone else to give you permission to be great and to start giving yourself permission to shine. The next 24 hours will shock you because you're going to remember something you've forgotten. You're going to remember that you are not here by accident. You're going to remember that your life has meaning and purpose. You're going to remember that you have the power to create your reality through your thoughts, words and actions. You're going to remember that love is your true nature, that joy is your birthright, that peace is your natural state. You're going to remember that abundance is not something you have to earn, but something you have to allow. You're going to remember that you are already whole, already complete, already perfect, exactly as you are. And when you remember these truths, when you really embody them, your entire life will begin to reorganize itself around this new understanding. Old patterns will dissolve. New opportunities will emerge. Relationships will either deepen or naturally fall away. Your work will become an expression of your soul's purpose rather than just a way to pay the bills. Some people call this spiritual awakening. Others call it personal transformation. I call it coming home to yourself. It's the return to your original nature, the nature you had before the world taught you to be small, before you learned to hide your light, before you forgot how magnificent you truly are. This homecoming is not always comfortable. It can be disorienting to realize how far you've wandered from your true self. It can be painful to see how much time you've spent living someone else's version of your life. It can be scary to contemplate the changes that will be required to align with your authentic nature. But it's also the most liberating experience you can have. To finally stop pretending to be someone you're not. To finally stop apologizing for who you are. To finally stop waiting for permission to live your truth. To finally come home to the magnificent being you've always been underneath all the masks and roles and identities. The poet Rumi understood this journey intimately. He wrote, "Let yourself be silently drawn by the strange pull of what you really love. It will not lead you astray. That strange pull you've been feeling, that restless yearning for something more, that quiet voice that won't be silenced, that's your soul calling you home. That's your true self refusing to remain hidden any longer. Over the next 24 hours, pay attention to that pull. Notice what makes your heart sing. Notice what lights you up from the inside. Notice what you would do if you knew you couldn't fail. Notice what you would create if money were no object. Notice what you would say if you knew people would listen. Notice what you would become if you released all your limitations. These are not idle fantasies. These are glimpses of your authentic self, trying to break through the barriers of conditioning and fear. These are messages from your soul about who you're meant to become and what you're meant to do. The universe is conspiring to help you fulfill this vision of yourself. Right now, as I speak these words, forces are aligning to support your transformation. People are being positioned in your path who will help you. Opportunities are being prepared that will serve your growth. Resources are being gathered that will support your journey. But you have to